AMD's latest RX 7900 GRE GPU has arrived just a few weeks after the latest batch of 40 series GPUs from Nvidia, namely the RTX Super Range. However, while the Nvidia Super Range is still seen as a high-end and more expensive model, the new AMD RX 7900 GRE wants to slide into your DMs and prove that you can get similar performance from it for a fraction of the price. That's where this Gigabyte AMD Radeon RX 7900 GRE Gaming OC model comes in. This is a Gigabyte variation of the AMD RX 7900 GRE, and it packs all the similar specs and features alongside a slightly overclocked game and boost clock. The game clock comes in at 2391 MHz compared to the reference card, which is 2245 MHz. The boost clock comes in at 2052 MHz instead of 1880 MHz on the reference card. This specific RX 7900 GRE is targeting the RTX 4070 in terms of its specs and performance. Of course, the GPU comes with 16GB of RAM compared to 12GB on the RTX 4070. It also requires a bigger power supply at 700 watts due to its 290 watt power draw. AMD is also shipping these RX 7900 GRE cards with future-proof DisplayPort 2.1 ports capable of 4K at up to 480Hz with HDR enabled. So the company is clearly doing things better in some regard. However, the big elephant in the room is AMD's snail-paced rollout of its FSR3 tech, which is also meant to rival AMD's incredible DLSS3 upscaling. So again, there are some hits and some misses here. But if you're here for this review, you want to see how well this card performs, and I have all the tests. But let's just first go over exactly what this card is about. The Gigabyte AMD Radeon RX 7900 GRE is the Gaming OC edition. It is one of many variants you can get from Gigabyte. It is a fairly large card that comes in at 302mm by 130mm and is 56mm thick. It features the classic gaming OC stylings, including a black and grey shell with an RGB Gigabyte logo on the center. You can tweak this logo's RGB in the Gigabyte control center. The card then requires two 8-pin PCIe power cables which slide into the ports on one end. The GPU also includes three 90mm fans which make up the Windforce cooling system on the card. The cooling system also includes 7 composite heat pipes and a large copper plate which Gigabyte says directly touches the GPU to help with the thermals. The fans spin together with the center fan taking a reverse rotation to send the heat from the front to the back where it exits the screen cooling vent. The last AMD card I reviewed from Gigabyte sounded like a plane flying over my house, so I hope this one is a little better. When picking up this card, you'll get the GPU in the box and nothing else. There's no adapters, no motherboard mounts either. You just get the card and a quick start guide. The card looks nice, it is a good size to fit in most cases, and it isn't too heavy either. Likely why Gigabyte didn't include a motherboard mount with the GPU in the box. However, the card looks and feels like any other gaming OC variant. The black styling will fit into your case nicely if you have a black case. If you're into white and you have a white case, you might want to look at the Aero model instead. AMD is targeting 1440p gaming with this Radeon RX 7900 GRE GPU. With the help of FSR, users might be able to get more out of the card, but that's all on a case-by-case basis. The card includes 16GB of GDDR6 memory across its 256-bit bus. It also includes 64MB of AMD's Infinity Cache. As for the cores, the RX 7900 GRE includes 5120 cores. This is an impressive number given that the RX 7900 XT, which is substantially more expensive, includes only 5% more cores with 5376 cores. Sure, that card is from 2022 and includes better memory specs and a faster GPU clock speed, but it just goes to show how much value you're getting with this 2024 card. I ran some tests on the Gigabyte AMD Radeon RX 7900 GRE Gaming OC, that name is just way too long, to see exactly where this GPU fits into the grand spectrum of things. My 3D Mark TimeSpy test showed that the card is 5% faster than Nvidia's RTX 4070, which is kind of impressive given that the 4070 is more expensive. However, when testing out ray tracing in the Port Royale tests, the 4070 beat the RX 7900 GRE, but it was only by 5%. This was expected. AMD has kind of fallen behind when it comes to ray tracing, but tests show that the company is slowly catching up. I then ran some gaming benchmarks. While AMD does treat this card as a 1440p model, I wanted to test out 4K at the same time to see how far we can go with it. Of course, I also did 4K tests with FSR where available, because those games are likely the ones you'll use these settings with. First, we have the 1440p and 4K tests without any upscaling at all. These games were all running on the best possible settings with ray tracing enabled across select games. I have listed which ones had ray tracing enabled on. You can see from the test that this card handles 1440p games quite well. In fact, they performed excellently. When stepping over into 4K, it does struggle a bit with more demanding titles. And I use the word struggle loosely here. The card still manages to play most games at a reasonable frame rate. In all honesty, nothing is stopping you from playing, say, Returnal at 70 FPS in 4K. I know PC gamers love crazy high refresh rates, but sometimes 4K at 60 FPS is pretty reasonable middle ground for games. This AMD RX 7900 GRE can deliver just that without question. Where the card does struggle is when it comes to ray tracing. There's a noticeable performance drop across games. Sure, this is something we can expect on all GPUs, but you'll need to tackle each game's ray tracing on a case-by-case basis. For example, Cyberpunk 2077 at 4K with ray tracing wasn't playable. Take it down to 1440p and it is somewhat playable, but 30 FPS just isn't ideal here. You'll have to make use of some aggressive FSR3 to get this game running comfortably on this card. Returnal, on the other hand, managed at 4K with a decent-ish 45 FPS. At 1440p, it was simply much better, of course. You can look at AMD FSR to help boost performance where possible, but I wanted to run the test without the upscaling enabled to show the raw power on offer here. I use an RTX card myself and I try to disable DLSS wherever possible to bypass the often reduced image quality. FSR suffers from this more than DLSS, so I wouldn't even look at FSR as an option unless I had to, personally speaking, of course. FSR3 is also an option. Avatar is one of the games to feature FSR3 support, and you can see from the test it does provide a welcome performance boost. However, you can also see from the footage that it downgrades the image quality as expected. Throughout my test, the card remained quite cool. I only measured a max temperature of 64 degrees Celsius, which is rather impressive. I was also happy to hear that the card makes a lot less noise than I expected. If anything, it is pretty silent. I could barely hear the fans over my water cooler, which is saying something. This was with the card's fans maxed out at 2050 RPM and the card was using 290 watts of power. The clock speed was also sitting at 2383 MHz. In the end, this card did surprise me. It comes with some impressive performance out of the box, and AI upscaling stuff aside, there's a lot of raw power here that can carry 1440p games and 4K ones too. You have to compare what you're getting here for its price tag and put it next to its closest competition, which of course includes Nvidia and AMD cards. When looking at that, there's definitely a lot of value here. Sure, it often falls short with some ray tracing performance, but unless you obsess over these settings, you'll likely be fine with what this card can deliver. I really thought I was going to come out of this review being disappointed, but in fact I am impressed that AMD has the balls to release something cheaper and in fact better than its direct competition. If anything, the company is pushing aside its own RX 7900 XT to offer similar value at a lower price tag. If only Team Green would do the same thing. So those are my thoughts on this GPU. Are you looking to pick it up? Let me know in the comments down below. As usual, thanks for watching and a huge thanks to Gigabyte for sending this card my way to review. While you're here, please don't forget to like and subscribe and visit glitch.online for more gaming tech news and reviews. Until next time, farewell.